Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're digging into a really high-stakes legal fight that raises a pretty fundamental question about justice in America. It's a story of one man, his home, and some crucial evidence that a judge just refused to look at.
So let's just dive right into this. What if you had the proof to win your case, the smoking gun, but the court flat out refused to even look at it? I mean, just think about that. Well, for a homeowner named Jeremy Bass, this wasn't a hypothetical. He says it's exactly what happened to him.
Okay, so our story is all about Jeremy Bass. His home gets sold in a foreclosure auction, and suddenly he's in a legal battle against these two corporate buyers, DPW Enterprises and Mountain Prime 2018 LLC. And here's the real kicker, he had to represent himself.
Yeah, so the legal term for that is a pro se litigant. It just means you're in court without a lawyer. But for Bass, this wasn't some kind of choice he made. He actually tried to get help, contacted over 125 law firms, but nobody would take his case. So he was forced to go it alone, trying to figure out this super complicated legal maze all by himself.
So the clock is ticking, right? On October 21st, 2024, literally one day before this huge make-or-break hearing, Bass files 3 crucial documents. He was convinced this was it, the game-changing proof he needed.
But here's where the story takes a crazy turn. The court refused to consider his most critical arguments. The judge just declined to look at them. I mean, can you believe that? Let's get into why.
So why would they do that? Well, the court said they were improper replies to replies. It's basically a procedural technicality, a tiny little rule in a giant rule book that, frankly, only a lawyer would probably know about. It's a classic example of how the system can feel like it's rigged against the little guy.
And check this out. This is what's so wild. The judge herself, Judge Michelle M. Evans, even admitted the rule was, in her own words, a little convoluted. So the very rule she's using to throw out his evidence, she knows it's confusing. It just goes to show you what an uphill battle it is for someone without a lawyer.
This chart really lays it out perfectly. You've got someone like Bass, a pro se litigant who has to learn all these super complex rules on his own. Then you have the other side, guided by legal experts who know all the unwritten rules and insider procedures. For them, a mistake might get a slap on the wrist. For Bass, one tiny error could be, and was, fatal to his entire case.
Okay, so what was in these documents the court wouldn't even look at? What was so important? Well, the most explosive stuff was in what's known as the Section C filing, and trust me, it was a bombshell.
So get this, Bass claimed the plaintiffs admitted in their own filings that they talked to the trustee before the auction even happened. He's saying, hey, this looks a lot like a violation of the Sherman Antitrust Act. They even showed up with pre-printed checks for the exact right amount. This completely blows up the whole idea of a fair public auction, right? It could even be a breach of the trustee's duty to be impartial.
And it's not just Bass saying this. Antitrust experts, like Professor Jonathan Harmon, agree that this kind of thing raises huge red flags. It totally undermines the whole process. The trustee is supposed to be neutral, not giving some bidders a secret advantage.
And here's the really crucial part of his argument. Bass was saying this isn't just a simple foreclosure dispute anymore. He's alleging a violation of federal law. And if that's true, he argued, this whole case doesn't even belong in state court. It should be in federal court.
Now, you might think, okay, that one filing got excluded. But the thing is, the October 21st filings were really just the tip of the iceberg. It seems there was a whole pattern of his evidence getting shut out.
First up, there were official police reports. I mean, actual cops went to the house and confirmed Bass was living there. But the court decided to go with the other side's claim that he'd abandoned the home. It's pretty wild.
And then there's this. Bass dug up 6 other, very similar foreclosure cases in Utah. And guess what? They involve the exact same companies and the same law firm. He was trying to show that this wasn't just a one-time thing, but maybe, just maybe, a pattern of behavior. The court wouldn't look at it.
And on top of all that, he had audio and video recordings. He said they showed all sorts of irregularities at the auction, and even his conversations with the prosecutor's office. But again, that evidence was dismissed too.
So you can see how this creates a domino effect, right? The court basically narrows the whole thing down to a simple ejectment case. All of Bass's evidence about potential fraud, excluded. So now you have this incomplete picture that, of course, favors the corporate plaintiffs. The end result? Summary judgment is granted against Bass. And then, to really rub salt in the wound, his defense is called frivolous, and he's ordered to pay their attorney fees.
So let's talk about the consequences, because they're staggering. And this whole situation really boils down to one fundamental question. What's the point of the justice system? Is it just about following the rules to the letter, or is it about actually getting to the truth?
The financial hit for Jeremy Bass was just devastating. We're talking over $340,000. That's not just a number, that's over $140,000 in lost home equity plus all the other costs. And all of this happened in a case where his side of the story, his key evidence, was never even considered.
Then, on March 18, 2025, he was physically removed from his home. And get this happened while his appeal was still pending with the Idaho Supreme Court. This is a really tactical move, because now his opponents can argue, hey, he's not in the house anymore, so the whole case is irrelevant, or what lawyers call moot. It's a way to try and shut down the appeal altogether.
You know, this whole thing really puts a spotlight on a massive tension in our justice system. As civil rights attorney Daniel Washington puts it, when the rules become barriers preventing courts from examining evidence of potentially unlawful conduct, the system fails in its fundamental purpose. I mean, that really says it all, doesn't it?
And that leaves us with this final, really important question. Should legal rules be a pathway to justice, or can they become a barrier? The case of Jeremy Bass really forces us to think about whether our system is set up to find the truth, or if it just protects the people who know how to work the rules.